Okay, so 4A was using an appropriate diagram, explain why Keynesian economists believe that government intervention is often essential for decreasing cyclical unemployment. So the question doesn't just say, why is government intervention essential? It's saying, why do Keynesian economists believe this? So you've got to have a diagram, you've got to have something on Keynes, and you've got to have something on cyclical unemployment. Yeah, so the simplest thing is to kind of say, well, look, what is cyclical unemployment? Yeah, that's all to do with the business cycle. So we're talking about when the economy is in recession. Then we've got to say, well, okay, kind of what sort of government intervention is necessary in a recession? Yeah, so we need some sort of expansionary policy, is what Keynesians will argue. That could be expansionary monetary policy. So what we could do is we could cut interest rates, or we could engage in QE, or we could engage in expansionary fiscal policy. We could increase government spending or decrease tax. What you then want to be saying is, well, how is this going to have an impact? So ideally, we'll want to talk about how there'll be some sort of multiplier process and how that's going to help to prevent a recession. So, for example, we could say, if the government used expansionary monetary policy, lower interest rates, create an incentive to borrow money, reduce mortgage payments, and so on. Therefore, consumption and investment are likely to rise. As a result of that, more people have jobs, and they in turn spend more money. And because they're spending more money, that creates more jobs, which in turn spends more money, and hence the cyclical unemployment, which is simply caused due to a lack of aggregate demand, will be likely to help the economy to recover. I think what most of the ones that I've seen in the exam tend to do is then to draw some sort of Keynesian ADAS diagram. So we've got real GDP down here, we've got aggregate supply, and we've got an economy where there's a relatively, if that's full employment or something, we've got a relatively significant output gap. And what you've then gone on to do, is to kind of say, well, as a result, aggregate demand is going to shift, to say AD2 as a result of the fiscal or monetary expansion, and as a result, the output gap is reduced, and unemployment will come down, and there you have it. That's going to get you a reasonable way along the way to 10 marks, but it's not going to get you all the way, because you haven't said why is this specifically a Keynesian policy. So hence there is that sense that it's the alternative to what neoclassical economists are going to argue. So what we need is something that says so why intervene though? Because the opposite is the neoclassical idea that the economy is going to self-stabilize. So you need so what you've got to say is, why do Keynesians believe that the economy isn't going to self-stabilize? So the neoclassical self-stabilization process argues that when there is high unemployment, what that does is, because unemployment is so high, it forces down wages. Because wages are forced down, it reduces firms' costs. That reduces the price level in the economy, and that in turn increases aggregate demand. So what's wrong with that? The answer is, well, nothing necessarily if there are perfectly flexible product and labour markets. But Keynesians say that they're not. That we have, the problem is that firstly, that might not happen. We might not get a decrease in wages because we have sticky wages because of inflexible labour markets. Or even if it does, the price level may not fall because of monopoly power. So sticky prices as a result of monopolies and oligopolies, which can be summed up as inflexible product markets. So to get up to 10, you've got to have that sense of, why is this a Keynesian idea? What's wrong? Why don't Keynesians accept the kind of neoclassical self-stabilization? And as a result, therefore, they need to stimulate demand themselves. If you'd done a neoclassical diagram, which I don't think anybody did, what you could have done is you could have done a neoclassical diagram and kind of said, kind of according to neoclassical, so neoclassical economists argue that in a recession, AD falls to AD2, output falls to I2. Neoclassical economists argue that we self-stabilize. Keynesians say that we get stuck at B. So you could have done it that way and said, so Keynesians say we need to push aggregate demand back to AD1 to take us from B to A, whereas neoclassical economists say the economy self-stabilises from B to C. But the key is make sure that you talk about this idea that wages and price are going to be sticky in the Keynesian world, and that's why intervention is necessary.